we open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine, your message taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine, your message taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show.
Hello. I'm not feeling good. I think it's called Zoomastitis. It's where Zoom takes over your world to the point where it all falls apart. We could go through all the problems. They're mostly mine. Well, I have to take responsibility for them. So let's start with the simple things. We've been doing a ridiculous number of webinars. An absolutely ridiculous number of webinars. And I think it's coming back to bite me. Organization is getting flaky. Control is gone. And thanks to the wonders of daylight saving time, we're suddenly an hour earlier than we're supposed to be on the calendar. Confused? I am. And I apologize to the 3 or 4 people who may have turned up an hour early because Zoom decided we were an hour early when we had no intention of being an hour early. Okay, so this is what I have to say about all of that. When you set your date and time in Zoom events, you can change the date and time on later sessions. But you will always be tied to the time zone that you set when you first set up the event. Now I can show you with a screen share, but I won't because Mike's not ready for a screen share at the moment. And also, it's very simple to explain. When you go into your sessions and you can change the time, there's a little box below which allows you to see what time it will be in another time zone. What it doesn't do is allow you to change that time zone into which your date and time is fixed. And so we had a problem when the time zone changed because the US went an hour off before the UK by a month. So we had 3.5, 4 sets of events where the time was wrong. And then when that time zone ended, somehow we ended up being an hour earlier again as the UK moved forward an hour. That's it. I think I want to end the webinar there, really. It's all gone so wrong. I'm now afraid of recording on Zoom YouTube because we had a YouTube event deleted last week. But I can't stop because I have to apologize now personally to Robert, who's just come back for the second time to join this webinar after he joined the first time when, of course, the time zone changed. And poor Robert isn't in the US. So he's probably more confused than I am. But Robert, yes, we try to make this 3 p.m. Eastern. We may well have to end the sessions for this event and start a new event tying the date and time to 3 p.m. Eastern. So when we get to the end of daylight saving times, we will follow 3 p.m. Eastern when it goes back from daylight to normal. And everybody else, including Robert in Europe and myself in the UK, will have to follow. Because, for good or bad, we have more people in the US following us than anywhere else. So we give in and we say, that's how we'll do it. And has been said, this is a real bummer. That's a quote. It's not my word. I would have used something stronger. But yes, it is. It's very annoying. And it may be one of those US-centric problems that Zoom would have not noticed, but I will be making them well aware of this. You can change the date and time of your events. If you've got a whole set of sessions, you can add sessions, you can change the time for sessions. But it's really annoying that once you've committed to a time zone fix, that's what Zoom seems to do. Of course, I will now be digging into the APIs with my developer hat. I've got it here, just in case. And I'll see if we can maybe fix it with a developer's fix, but I have a feeling we won't. That's really my only rant about Zoom itself. Mike would probably add a rant that Production Studio still isn't perfect for him, but then he's doing most of his Production Studio work at breakneck speeds because he hasn't a clue. He has no clue what's going to happen next. And then he just appears just to prove that he can get it to work sometimes. Mike, I'm having a little bit of a rant here, but really it's we started this madness in September. We've increased and we've just kept adding stuff. I've been doing probably twice as many events as the ones that you're turning up for. And that's not an invite for you to join them. You've got much better things to do than chasing me around on lots of webinars. But it does become a challenge of organization when you are running these events and you don't ever have a week off because you just keep going from one to the next. Yep. What are the sort of challenges that you think we need to address to make this a smoother experience, and therefore hopefully to show other people how running multiple events over this constant feed? What do you think we should add to our system, apart from having a script, which is never going to happen?
Yeah, John's always got me on my toes. When it comes to organizational stuff, of course, the audience is always going to look for consistency, right? So if we say we're going to be here at 3 o'clock Eastern Mondays, Tuesdays, and our 12 o'clock on Fridays, then we have to be committed to that. Again, it's the mentality of the world that we've grown up in for decades, based on, if you are, and Johnny, your mom was like this too, when she would watch the her afternoon soap operas, right? It guaranteed it was always going to be on at a certain time every day, and she planned around that too. My mother still to this day will plan around, making sure that she's available for her soap operas, as an example. Or my father, if he had a certain show that he wanted to make sure that he was done everything and had to be there for the news, right? He wanted to make sure he was there in time to watch the evening news, stuff
but
like
when
that.
But then you nail your date and time to the wrong time zone, and therefore there's going to be 2 months of the year where it's just going to be in conflict. So that is, that is definitely. I had this mad idea that I could just, if I just changed the time by an hour, it would all work. But no.
No, Zoom came in the background and said,
Gonna
not
bite
so
ya."
fast. Yeah. We're going to bite you. We're going to bite you in the butt. And this is how, and we're going to do it whenever we want. And no, it's not that bad. But when it comes to, when it comes to consistency, so definitely, our viewers are going to definitely want rigid time frames so that they can make sure that they schedule around making sure that they come to see what
which means that which means if we've nailed our flag to the mast of it's 3 p.m. Eastern, we then need to go into Zoom and probably, as I said, we'll probably have to end this sequence of webinars and start a new set of webinars based on this, but making sure that I get the time zone of 3 p.m. Eastern, because that's the core message that we want. And then hopefully then we won't have this mess where the time zone is just confusing us and pushing us forwards and backwards and sideways.
Yeah. So just to let everybody know who is not from North America. So again, this is obviously Eastern time zone obviously affects me as well in Canada because we're in Ontario and we follow the Eastern time zone as well. So when it comes to North America, let me go down that road. Even the broadcast world will base a lot of their advertisements for people to come. Make sure that you watch XYZ show at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Right. And you will even hear me very much at the end of each show actually do an Eastern time zone and a Pacific time zone. And the reasoning being is that those are the two main coasts and also the two most populated time zones as well in North America.
But of course, summertime or daylight savings time, whatever you want to call it, works in many places around the world, except they all decide to do it on a different day. So this year, 3 p.m. Eastern became 3 p.m. daylight time at the beginning of April. And where I'm based in the UK, British summertime, which is GMT +1, didn't happen until the end of April. So we had all that time where it just didn't work. And now we are in summertime. I now find that it then moved my calendar an hour forward because maybe it nailed the time to GMT. So
yes,
it didn't move when Eastern moved, and it didn't move when British summertime moved.
Yeah, where you are, because you're so close to the actual true GMT, which in theory everybody should be locked to, but let's not go down that road too, because
no, let's go down that road. We need a Zoom time zone. I don't mind what they choose, but we want a Zoom time zone, and there's no daylight savings version of it. There's a Zoom time zone. In the aircraft world, airline pilots always talk about Zulu time, which is effectively GMT or zero time.
Right.
But we need a Zoom time zone so that we can,
because it's easier for them as they're flying. That makes perfect sense that they're basing everything out for GMT. It's not a silly thing. Let's put it that way. It's not a silly thing to even base it off of GMT too. Now, here comes the fun part, is that if you tried to go GMT instead of Eastern time zone, would you run into these problems too, John?
Well, I would.
You brought this up. I think there still would be the problems, right?
There would be the problem, but the problem would be down to people knowing that their time zone has changed. If you're going to nail it to 3 p.m. Eastern, and then you're going to let Eastern daylight savings time move, when that moves, that's going to catch everybody out for a month in the rest of the world. There isn't a perfect answer to this, of course, is there really? That's what we're trying to say.
Right. But if you did lock it to GMT, and again, we're thinking this through. If you did lock it to GMT, we're thinking this on the fly, everybody that's watching us on YouTube right now and locally here on our webinar. So if we did lock it to GMT, in theory, then it's based on the local person's Zoom client when the actual time is.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that
don't
means
know.
that it would change by an hour for everybody at some time during the year when they go into their daylight savings time or their summertime. They would then go back an hour, and then when they go back into their winter normal time, it will return to the original time. So it would move.
Right. But then here
Yeah,
comes
I mean,
the problem is that you couldn't really advertise the time zone. You could advertise the time zone as GMT, but again, for North America, again, they are so used to television that they will base
Exactly.
it off of, even our friend Ray that joined us for the show yesterday, he even said to us, "Oh, our time zone didn't change right now. We're the same time zone as Pacific."
Yeah.
But he's not Pacific, right? Where he's based. So that just tells you, even when we're trying to arrange Ray for next week, to make sure that he's like, "Okay, you guys are doing this when?" And I said 3 p.m. Eastern. He said, "Okay, I'll convert that." Because again,
Yeah,
in North America,
because that's what most people, yeah. And that's what we're going to do. But it is an interesting feature. And Robert's making comments because, of course, Robert's running events all the time, and quite often he's run multi-session over time events like we are. So it might be a weekly event or a monthly event, or it might be a 3-day event. And yeah, it's amazing how technological we are, and yet we are defeated by a bit of daylight savings time.
Yeah, Father Time coming to bite us.
So,
but Father Time is constant. See, that's the fun part about this too.
Yeah, time is a constant, but constantly annoying. That is true. a hard thing to make sense of. And it's going to get even worse for me. Not really so much to Mike, but it's certainly going to be worse for me because we are going to move away from just having 3 basic shows, and we'll be down to 2 basic shows. And then there will be a number of shows filling up the slots, different ones, different weeks, because focus, basically, focusing in on specific things. We have already got the wonderful Josh from Zoom to be with us the second Tuesday of the month. We have Elliot, a super champion with Zoom, not a Zoom employee, but a fantastic guy on phones, and he will be here on the third Tuesday of the month. And of course, those are different dates as well, so that doesn't work well in time either. But we are trying to make more focused events on the calendar so that people don't have to attend all of them. That's only my problem. You just attend the subject matter that's applicable to you. And that brings me on to the second half of this conversation, which is really about how the heck do you keep all these things under control? And the answer is, you can't do it with Zoom. I'm sorry, guys, but if you want to organize multiple events and are running different schedules and things like that, just putting them into Zoom events just doesn't work. It's all really nice to do a list of your events and you see your events there and it tells you when your next session is. But from a calendar perspective, it's quite a nightmare to organize in that way. And I've been playing around with my Zoom developers hat on, and I've been looking at various ways to make the schedule look better. And I think I will have something working. I think I've got something working already, but I want to test it on my own environment before I let it loose on anybody else. Scheduling and organizing is hard. And don't forget that when you have well, actually, it probably doesn't matter how long your event is, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. You almost always have to dedicate an hour before the event just to pull everything together and make sure it's all working. I've been trying to do it in 3/4 of an hour because I've been doing things before the event and I wanted a rest, but it's getting increasingly harder. And the reason it's getting increasingly harder is the other thing you don't realize until you start it is once you're running a lot of events, it's like deja vu all over again. You can forget which event you're going to about to present on, which one you plan to do where, and that takes organizing as well. And although I've got lots of Zoom docs coming out of my ears, and I always have a little note, and in fact for Elliot, I even printed it out just because I thought we were going to go upstairs and downstairs. I want to keep it with me. It is hard to do. And it also gets harder to do when you have lots of speakers turning up at various times because you've got to manage them as well. And this is where Zoom, I can't find a polite way of saying it, Zoom lets us down because Zoom doesn't really have it doesn't really have anything to help us apart from you can get it to add all your calendar events into your personal calendar. But is that really the best way of managing this all? And I've only got to manage me, 4 or 5 guests, and Mike. When you do it at such bigger scale, how do we manage all of that? I honestly think we need a system. And I've been trying to pull together the spec of what we need in the system. But I am pretty sure that we need a system for this. Welcome Hershey Bar to YouTube. And I don't think Zoom's going to help us. I don't think anything I've heard from Zoom recently would help us with this. And I know it's an issue because we've already had lots of conversations in and out of the corporate world who are using Salesforce, HubSpot, and many other CRM packages. And they are, I think they're getting pretty good now at connecting the customers in the funnel at the beginning, putting them into webinar, and then pulling out the data afterwards. And from the sort of stuff that they're doing, I think they're getting to a level. But if you have multiple hubs, and an event hub is where you put your events, but you can have multiple ones of those because you might have one for sales, might have one for marketing, or you might have different hubs for different product groups, and they could be managed by different managers. I haven't found anything within Zoom that allows me to have a top-down look at all of that activity and help me organize it. We are starting a completely new hub next month. And so just listing the events in one hub is not going to be enough for me to see where I'm going because I'm going to have, well, I'll probably end up with 3 hubs running at the same time. I have an idea of a 4th, but I think I really want to know how I'm going to manage 3 hubs first before I add a 4th. But why would I have different hubs? Well, because just like other organizations, you want to focus your hubs on different things. Mike may have one hub for all his events, but he has lots of manufacturers to support. And if they did enough events, he may well consider giving them a separate hub. Because then they've got their own identity around all their events. And you may well want to do that within your organization. You may want to have a different hub for customers and a different hub for prospects, because you don't want to be doing sales presentations to your customers who have already purchased it. There are lots of reasons why you would want to run many hubs. And from a practical point of view, if you've got different hub managers running different hubs, then they probably want to have a separate hub from the other manager who's doing other events, because otherwise they'll get confused too. So I'm not having a criticism of hubs at all. I think they're a great, fantastic resource. And not to forget that you can run multiple hubs within the same list. So you can have multiple hubs in one. And I don't think we've got a word for it. We need that. Where's that dictionary, Mike? We haven't got a word for a group of hubs put all together. So so I've decided that for this conversation, I'm now going to call them an assimilation of hubs, and I bet I forget that by next week. So we do need better management, overall managing of hubs and things. And I think the same argument would go for meetings. If you have a set of meetings that you are going to, then they go in your calendar. But if you, well, we'll take Mike as an example. If Mike wants to work out what his team are up to and all the meetings they're in, how does he have a overarching dictionary word remaining to be put in? But where does he have a calendar that allows him to see where everybody is going at any time without filling his own calendar up with things that he wouldn't be attending? Mike, is there any, would you put this in your Salesforce? Would you be able to, from Salesforce, see where everybody was going?
Interesting. What we are doing right now is that we will, again, based on our calendaring system, it will let us know if the person is available or busy.
Okay.
So that in itself is good. We don't necessarily know what everybody's doing because, again, it's still their own personal calendars. Even though they are corporate calendars, they're still private. But
yeah.
As far as, because we're not that much of a micromanage location company. So, the CEO and I have been in many different corporate environments where they've micromanaged to the point of, well, we need to know everything that you're doing at every particular moment, and your breaks of going to the washroom are allowed to be here, here, and here. No, I'm kidding when it's that bad, but you know what I'm talking about if you've ever been in the corporate market, corporate environment. Yes, we are corporate as well here, but we've learned what we didn't like, and we're not doing that in our own corporation. So as far as, do we know if that person's available or not? No, again, it'll show us busy in their calendar. But if it is something urgent, then what I will do is, because we are all got Zoom chat, is I will Zoom chat to the person going, hey, are you available? I need to really talk to you. Can you chat? Are you in something right now? Sometimes depending on what they're in, they could actually just Zoom chat with me, or in that regards, if it's not that important what they actually have in their calendar, then they can quickly go on a Zoom meeting with me, depending on where their location is. If they're in the building, of course, I'll just go see them at their desk.
Yeah.
But as far as, if it's just quicker for me, if it's a quick question, I'd rather use Zoom chat. If it's a quick little thing that I need to talk to them and get a little bit more feedback than chat deserves, then I'll go into a quick Zoom meeting. Again, it depends on if they're already in a Zoom meeting, because sometimes our sales will, as an example, some of our sales team will actually bring in their one of my techs to be the sales support type person.
Okay.
Should there be any technical type questions? So,
but let's go back to the physical world. Let's go back to physical world. If you had a meeting room, you'd have some sort of calendar program to say when it was being used.
Yes. Yeah. So
because otherwise you double book people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the virtual version of that?
Yeah. So what we would then see, when we used to have a boardroom back in the day, what we would then see is that, who's in that world, it was already booked. And what we would do with that specific room's calendar is we would allow that to be a public calendar.
Yeah.
So then everybody would be able to see it.
But we don't do that virtually.
We don't do that virtually. No.
So if you're CMO, surely as a CMO, you would like to know a calendar of all the webinars being run by the organization for that week, so that you're aware of what's going on. It's not because you're nosy and you want to make sure people are doing enough work or whatever. If you had a physical studio, you have physical offices, you have meeting rooms, and you want to make sure or quite frankly, you're thinking of doing an event and you want to make sure that all the resources are there. So you want to make sure that the meeting room's available. And if you have a restaurant or of some sort in the building, you would want to know that there's capacity in the restaurant if people were going to come in. In the old days, we used to book out the photocopier and the overhead projector and other bits of paraphernalia that would wheel into the room.
Yeah.
Where's the virtual version of that? Because I can't see a virtual version of that, and it's only because I've dug myself into this hole of all these webinars and all these other things that we've been doing to experience it that I experience a feeling of not lack of control, but I actually feel I'm losing control because so many things are happening, and I can see what's going on reasonably using my calendar. But what I couldn't do if I was what I can't do perfectly is because I have run events for other people as well, they're not in my main calendar. So I then have to bring them into my personal calendar from these different places to make it all work. And if I want to look strategically then at what's going on, I can just about tell, but I'm booking all the events and the meetings. If I was part of a bigger corporate and there were 4 or 5 of us all booking different meetings and events, I would humbly suggest that there are reasons why you might not want 3 big marketing events to be happening on the same day, even though they're virtual, because of the knock-on effect of what's required by teams that are supporting those or following up or whatever. And therefore you would want to know that I want to run a big webinar of 500 people. I can do that because I've got a license, but is there anything else going on the organization on that Friday that would mean that if I needed to pull in extra resources like extra team members, they wouldn't be available because there's another event already happening, and the person who's running it is more senior than me, so they'll get all the people in. There doesn't seem to be any tool, and I'm now trying to work out how to build one, because I think it's almost outside of Zoom's prerogative. But in the same way as we need contact management systems to deal with customers and relationships outside of the Zoom ecosystem, even if you've got the CX, the customer extras that Zoom has, you still need a CRM for the long-term relationship of those people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm starting to feel now that I need a long-term organizational type of tool to help me control all my Zoom meetings, my Zoom events, and maybe even teach it to put buffers in. So when I have an event, a webinar event, to block out the hour before, because I have to do that by hand.
Yeah.
Because the start, and I have had times when people have booked, and they, as today, somebody books a call with me and they just book it in when they're seeing me available. So what do? They do it the half an hour before the hour I'm supposed to get ready, which means that I finish the session with them. I go over a few minutes. I then have to organize myself so that I've got everything I want for that meeting. And the next thing I know, I'm 15 minutes late into my hour of organizing for my next webinar. So that is why I think I certainly need a tool. And if I'm doing this and I need a tool, I'm guessing that it could be useful for quite a lot of other people as well.
Yeah. And again, John, it all comes down to time management, right? So what I've purposely done, even with my own corporate calendar for us, is that I've made sure that I've blocked out 30 minutes before showtime just to make sure that I'm here. Should something run long, I know I've still got a bit of a buffer so that, I don't jam myself into a predicament that I'm running to the studio from my office to make sure that I'm here in time, and then I'm getting everything set up, and then I'm rushed, and then all of a sudden we're late and we should be on at 3:00 and we're like 5 minutes after. That irks me to no end as it is, that, we should be up much earlier than we could potentially are. But when it comes to time management situations, what I also have too is that not only do I have, so I have sub calendars underneath my calendars, which John, I'm not telling you to do, but it is, so I will have a personal calendar actually overlap into my corporate calendars as well. So if there is any personal events in my calendar, they're color coded, so there'll be certain colors. So for my personal stuff, it'll come up, let's say, as a blue, but yet for the corporate stuff, everything will be a red, so that I know that, okay, yeah, this is a personal thing that I need to get done, or a corporate thing need to get done. But again, when it comes to that, and again, my team will see both, right? So when my team is still trying to book me, either being a personal one or a corporate one, if I'm busy for one or the other, they'll still have access to see, no, Mike's booked for something, I need his attention on something because it's urgent. Then that's when they'll zip in and Zoom chat with me going, I know that you're in a meeting or something right now, but, and that's where the but comes into play. And then, my teams are fairly self-sufficient. So they do know that if it's something that I can't be disturbed at that particular point, they can always escalate it up to the CEO. Because again, just corporately, that's, if I'm not around, they can go to her, and vice versa. If she's not available, they can come to me, right? Especially something that important. It's just the way that we're corporately structured. But when it comes down to it, when
Zoom
it comes
schedule
down to it, it's time
does
management,
it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you can put a time before, you can put a time after for Zoom schedule.
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
So it won't butt your meetings up, because you can give a gap, and that works well.
Yeah.
But you can't do that for when you do a Zoom event. You have to go and physically add another calendar event to put your time in. And yes, I have great big wads of time, and I'm getting frustrated now because of course I'm losing time, because I'm creating great big wads of time around when I know an event's being done. And then I look at it and I go, well, crikey, I wasted half an hour there. I could have got another thing in there, or got another task done. So it's
yeah, you got to be careful though, John, because I used to be in that world too, that I would jam things up so close that it would get to the point of, then it gets, anxiety starts kicking in too, a little bit too, where all of a sudden, if you jam things up too close, that you're like, oh, I know I got to go to the next webinar. I know I got to go to the next X. That if you jam things up too close, all of a sudden you're going to start now ruining the meeting you're in, because now you're hurrying up that meeting to finish it. And now you're panicking because now you're officially late, because you're late prepping for that next one, right? There's always that happy medium that you got to do in there too. And John, when you made the comment about the rooms, yes, also, I've purposely even included the studio as its own booking room. So, should the CEO or myself or anybody else in the office want to use my studio, yes, hands off. When I'm with John and Lord Zoom Live, this room is mine. No touchy. It's all mine. So I've purposely done that too. And yes, they will, again, everybody knows when I'm on with you. So that's nor here nor there too, when it comes to through the whole corporation. But when it comes to the room itself too, yes, I've actually recently added that as its own, it's got sort of the same capabilities as a Zoom room, but not really, because again, this is not truly a Zoom room. This is a studio with gear, right? So,
yep. Yeah, sorry, I was just reading Robert's little comment about an AI agent.
Perfect. An AI agent, yeah, that pings you a lot more than potential calendar stuff. That's not a bad idea.
Except it's got to have some way of being told when events are starting and stopping. Otherwise, it won't know how to advise me. So, again, that's still a calendar issue. And I have 4 Zoom accounts, separate corporate accounts. That's whatever you call them, domain accounts. So completely separated. And I have at least 2 users that I would manage in each of those 4 accounts. So I have the problem that, I suppose Robert has, and all the other people who are organizing events for others, that not only have you got to look at all the hub events in your own hub if you're running them for yourself, but you need to run around and check the hub events being run by other people that you're working with, where you may be the guest or the tech on call for those events as well. So you need to be able to jump across domains to see where all your events are. And then, yeah, maybe the AI agent can be taught that when I have a webinar, make sure that I am unavailable for an hour before that webinar and an hour after that webinar. Although I did notice the recording from last night took until this morning to appear, but obviously they were very busy on Monday night at Zoom. So it's a challenge, and it's a challenge we need to control. And that then gets me on to my third point, and that is, what am I going to talk about? I have I'll call it vague because it's not, it's a set of ideas, but I have a vague list. It's in a Zoom doc, of course. Of course it's in a Zoom doc, of various things that I would like to cover. And I hope that I can cover them in time. But I know that things happen, like Zoom brings out a new feature and suddenly it becomes a really important thing, or we spent a while trying to get Josh to come on this show, and now he has, and we're very thankful for him being able to make the time for us to do that. But until then, we had to go through our own list of Zoom event related things, and then of course Zoom event related things get announced and become an important issue that we want to discuss, and my little vague note of things gets pushed back and saved for another day. And then somebody brings out a new stonking piece of hardware or software, which sounds really interesting, that we then want to have a look at and focus on, and my little list gets pushed back. But one of the things I've been looking at is, how do I say this? An efficient way of getting AI to help me plan what I'm going to talk about. And this is not as easy as you think it is. That is, if you want to be a real business and not some generic person talking to people. You see, you can go to any AI, and I know you've all got your favorites and your favorites change, but you can go to any AI and say, I'm going to do a conversation on the latest things happens in Zoom events. And it will then go away and try and generically find out what's been going on in Zoom events and try and make some suggestions about what you want to cover. And then you can have a conversation with it. Maybe it's got an idea you haven't thought of. Maybe it's got an angle you haven't thought of. And you gradually make your content layout. But that ignores the fact that you are, I hope, when you do your list of things with Zoom and whatever chat product you're going to use to plan, or colleagues you're going to use to plan, I hope you take note of the fact that you are just maybe an expert in something. And you may have some knowledge in something. And I respectfully suggest that you know more about that subject than some chat product. So if you really want your chat product to reflect you, you need to give it some data about what you are and what you do. And I know that you're going to tell me that, yeah, they remember that sort of thing, but they don't remember that sort of thing. They remember it as long as they fancy remembering it, and then they will forget it when they fancy forgetting it. The only way for you to have a conversation about your planning with an AI-based tool is you need to give it a document of ground rules. Who you are, what you do, where you do it, why you do it, what information you want to talk about, at what level do you want to talk about it. If you do not have a background document, usually known as a markdown file, which confuses a lot of programming people because we've used markdown files for lots of other things. Anyhow, it's called a markdown file, and you should therefore attach it to your question of whatever chat product you have every time you ask a question, so that it is made very sure that you are telling it that this is what you are and who you are, and you need things related to that. Otherwise, you just get a generic set of stuff from your chat products. And sometimes it works, but very often it's just rubbish. So I suppose the question is, has anybody here, has anybody on Zoom, has anybody on YouTube actually done one of these? Or am I talking to a load of skeptics? Mike, you haven't used one of these, have you? Have you? Have you done a definition of who you are, what you do, and given it to an AI product to get more intelligent answers?
I've done a modification of that, but I am starting to now take your idea, and it's easier for me to, when I'm experimenting with different AI systems, for me to have that markdown consistent within an actual markdown file, which really, for everybody, if you don't know what a markdown file is basically a text file of information. And it basically has it laid out properly of, you know, as John broke it down into each of those categories, right? So that is, now again, some of you might be using ChatGPT's memory functionality, and that pretty much, and John's going, oh no, don't use that. But basically, it's
just
sort
forgets.
of, it's supposed to be that.
But it forgets.
Right.
They all forget. I said it enough. Please, please. When I have something I've done, then what I will often do, Mike, he's disappeared. I didn't want you to disappear, Mike, because this is for you. This is for you and for everybody.
I'm here.
What I do when I have had a reasonable conversation with my AI product, and I do take note of what you said about using different ones. So what I do at the end of a conversation is I will ask it to write me a markdown file overview of what we've just discussed. So it gives me a summary document, which I can then give to another AI product later, or I can give back to it later. And as I said, they don't remember everything. So this is my insurance policy, that it won't forget something that I've said and not send me down some rabbit hole that I didn't want to go down. So I'm very well trained now. I've trained myself to always, at the end of conversations, because yes, they do remember it for a while, but you don't know when they're going to forget something. You don't know when their memory is going to get full and they're going to ignore a point or whatever. So what I do is I use markdown files to get a summary out of that, and then I will save that summary file, and then I can bring that summary file back out again when I want to have the more conversations with that chat product, and make sure that it gets back to where we were. Because as you said, if you're using multiple chat products, then they're not going to know what the other one said, because thankfully they don't do it yet, and I expect they will one day. But they don't share notes between themselves and gossip about us behind our back.
Right. We don't officially know if they actually scrape each other. No, we don't officially know that yet. Yes, that would be correct. They might think about it, but they might not trust each other either. So that might be the other scenario too. I'm just saying.
I totally agree. So when I've had a planning meeting with my AI and I've been arguing about things, I will often get it to do me a summary. And then when I have that conversation again, I will include that file. Does that mean I'm using up more tokens? It probably does to a degree because it's going to process that file. But I'd rather use more tokens and be right than then have a conversation around the house. I could tell you guys how I spent an hour arguing with ChatGPT. It wasn't ChatGPT. It was GitHub GPT this afternoon because I wanted to do an app around controlling PowerPoint. Now I know it can do it because I've done one before. Actually, I did one before without even ChatGPT, so I know it's easily possible because I programmed one before the ChatGPT even took over. But getting it to do it the way I wanted it to be done, rather than the way it thought it could do it, took me off on a, for an hours worth of wasted time arguing with this blasted thing, trying to explain to it, I want you to do it this way. And of course I had to be careful because I was doing 3 apps and I've got a 4th one to do. So I need an app that's on the spreadsheet that will take the commands to move forward a page, back a page, load a page. And yes, you can do that yourself if you want to. Then I had a second app, which was just like a command line app that you could put a command and it would send the message to the PowerPoint plugin to make it work. Then, of course, I wanted a Stream Deck plugin to do this. And this is where I got into the mud because it tried to do it in one way. And of course, knowing that I've got these other programs in the family, I wanted to do it a certain way. And all I wanted was a status button so that when something happened, it could say if the PowerPoint was running, if it was stopped, and if it was running, what slide number it was in. It kept coming up with these different theories of how it could do it, and then it would get to the end and go, this doesn't work. Well, it wouldn't say this doesn't work because they never say they can't do something, do they? They always make up an answer. But it would say something like, oh, this is missing or that is missing, and then it would go again. And it took me ages to tell it, look, I want the status button to be told by the other buttons when they press and they get a response back like, I've started, or I've just moved on next slide, and the slide number is now 4. Go and tell the status button what the slide number is. And it had to make up a dozen different, it wasn't a dozen, but it felt like it, a dozen different ways of how it was going to do this. And eventually I got it to do it the way I wanted it to. And now I'm trying to think to myself, because it's downstairs and I dare not touch it now, I'm now trying to think of it. How am I going to get it to write a summary so that when I come back to add another button or make a change on something, it can help me? Or am I going to say, right, what I've got works. I'm not going to ask ChatGPT to do it anymore. I'll do the rest myself because I've got all the basic functions I wanted working. So maybe I will now ignore it. But it costs tokens. And tokens cost money. And you start finding that, Mike, maybe you want to do a calculation in your head while I'm doing this little paragraph of how many GPTs you're using and how much you're paying each month in total for all these different tools. Because I am getting, well, let's put it politely. No, let's not put it politely. Once you find a ChatGPT product that can do basic programming, it doesn't need to be the most expensive, most sophisticated and fastest tool out there because it always takes ages to think around the alternatives. And so I am trying, and I can't do this for all of them because sometimes you need the expertise, but I am trying to do a lot of my day-to-day, mundane, simple ChatGPT stuff. I am now trying to do that on a locally running, reasonably intelligent GPT that runs locally on a machine because I've got more machines than I got cents. And therefore, it's running in itself. It's not using any tokens. It's using a machine when I need it, but the machine can be used for other things. And I am already guessing it's probably saved me $50 to $60 a month for not needing all the silly stuff. Because one thing I do pay for my programming version for now, because I haven't found a good enough programming version I can download and run locally. But I run out of tokens on a regular basis. And, if it goes off for an hour arguing about some stupid feature I can't do and I don't want, and I know it's not going to work, but it spends an hour playing around with that idea, it wastes an hour of my time, which is worth at least $10, probably more like $100 to $200. And it will probably then bill me for an extra set of tokens it's wasted going around the circles where I didn't want it to go. So I am starting to work on the organizational API, ChatGPT type interaction, using a local version of AI, using Olama, which basically just a framework into which you can drop GPTs. And you can have them networked or you can have them running locally. But if you run them locally, it doesn't cost you any money. And that's the important thing. So all the senseless, I don't need a really powerful GPT to do type processing, where I'm just doing simple conversion, looking up things and turning my English into computer speak. I am now trying to make use of that. And I do actually, surprisingly enough, for me as well as for you, I'm using it for my marketing, Mike, because once I have the MD files defining who I am and what I do, I don't need it to go out to the generic internet and find a generic version of me who does what I do and research to come back and tell me. I just want it to organize my thoughts in a more computational type way so that we can have a conversation about, well, even ads. You don't need a very clever chat GPT to do ads. I would argue that your average chat GPT, with the knowledge of who you are from the MD files, is going to give you better one-liners and post ideas than you get the most expensive, I know, is it Claude or somebody else who's better at the moment, and you give it to them and they then go and create some generic stuff which has got nothing to do with you and probably then won't relate to you. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And I know that you did a lot of work with ChatGPT on this.
I did. And I'm petrified that it's going to forget the rules which we had, because we've been doing those comic style screenshots for what, since Christmas, maybe December, I think I started using it. And yeah, I'm petrified that it's going to forget how I make them. So I've got about a 50-page Canva document with all the various ones that we've done. The ones of me pointing and smiling and whatever, all the other little actions, cartoon actions I've got them in a separate file as well. And now and again, it sort of suggests it's forgotten how we did it. And I'll just include a couple of those cartoon versions of me or you or both of us. I put the one of Josh and it got Josh. Remember, you were observing. That's the word I'm looking for. You observed that, yeah, Josh got the thumb up because I gave ChatGPT the example of me with my thumb up, and it then assumed that Josh needed to have his thumb up as well. I believe that's what happened. It's only because when you mentioned it, I sort of thought back, which picture did I give it? And I think that's what it did. But yeah, I'm on a roll. I'm on a successful roll. They've been pretty consistent. They've been pretty good. And here we are 4 months into using them. But yeah, I'm afraid that at some point it's going to stop the relation. I'm very careful to always refer to the images in the same phraseology that I do every single time, just praying that it keeps that style going, because I'm sure at some point, and I never give it any other images to do either. So that ChatGPT never gets anything to do apart from those cartoons. So maybe that is helping me keep the whole concept going. But yeah, I'm always afraid of, a bit like, I don't like, it's all right. Dad won't worry. Dad won't worry. But it's like having somebody who's on the edge of dementia. That's how I always think of talking to my AI now. That I don't know what it's going to forget. It might forget me. He might forget what I look like. He doesn't know it, and he's off screen, so I can tell you that in January, February sort of time, when we first started doing these, sometimes it put Mike in because it thought Mike was more attractive than me. So I'd do the cartoon image, and it wouldn't be me that appeared, it was Mike. And I had to go back to him and say, "Excuse me, I want to be in this photo, not him. I'm Lord Zoom. He's the clever one. So, I want me on there so I can look good before he comes and looks better than me." But yeah, it smuggled him in there. But sorry, he doesn't know because he's not on the screen. And when he's on the screen, he doesn't know, he can't hear a thing. So sometimes it's gone a little bit off the rails, and I've had to correct it. But what inspired me to do all this was, and it's nearly 2 years ago now, I was trying to do some Facebook posts about all of Lord Zoom when Lord Zoom first really started going big. And I was talking to some friends in a marketing group I'm in, and they were all complaining. They were all trying to use AI as well, and they were getting the same thing I was, which was quite often it was generic nobody. Or if you mention what business you're in, it was the generic person in that business. And we did an experiment then when I had about a dozen people, I think it was. No more than 15. And I think I actually asked ChatGPT for them, but I said I wanted to do some Facebook posts, and to make them more specific to the users, I wanted a set of a dozen questions which we could ask, which would give us the context for creating the Facebook posts. And I think ChatGPT gave me, a dozen as I asked for. And I think I added a few. I think I took a few out. I think we ended up with about 15 questions. And then I got those people on a Zoom call because I had to. I was on Zoom. And basically, I just said hello to them. And then I went through the 15 questions. And if I thought they didn't give me a really good answer, in other words, they're a bit too vague and woolly and not exact, I would ask them a follow-up question just to get some more information out of them. But basically, we would have 15 questions, which started with, who you are and where you come from, and went through to products and what you're selling and what your aims are, etc. And we got the answers of those into a transcript because Zoom does transcripts. So it did it all for us. And we took the transcript and then we gave the transcript to, and that was like the first part of the meeting. The second part of the meeting, we took that transcript and we gave that to, that meeting ended because I wanted to prepare it. Then we had a second meeting and I showed them how I took that transcript of me asking the questions and them giving the answers. And I gave that transcript to ChatGPT in the time between. And I then asked it for some specific Facebook posts about the person. And I gave it that instruction. And then I also gave it a more specific instruction where I said, I want some more Facebook posts, but I want you to concentrate on, and then I gave it something that was around the business owner that I thought would make a good post. So I asked for some specific things created, but again, still using the transcript as the source of data about this person. And then I had the second meeting with everybody where we went through the Facebook posts that it created. And we got it to create a few images as well. It wasn't good at images in those days, but its content was 70 to 80% really on the nail. There were a few posts where it got bored and gone generic and didn't really refer so much to the person. But most of the posts it produced were really good. Now, here we are 2 years later, and a lot of people think that Zoom does that on its own, and you can, give it to Zoom AI now. Maybe the whole of Zoom can do it on its own. Some people think that ChatGPT can do it on its own because they'll have the conversation with ChatGPT and it will produce a Facebook post for them. But if they haven't divulged the information that it's then had a chance to remember about who they are and what they do, even today, all the AI products will guess based on the data you've given them. And if you haven't given them much data, they will only give you a generic answer. If Mike's had a conversation with one of his GPTs about his business and he's done a few interactions and done some questions, then they will give him good data. So what the heck has this got to do with Zoom, John? Well, firstly, Zoom's a really good tool for collecting this information. You have the Zoom Notes feature, and I don't just mean the write it in Zoom Notes feature. You have the recording Zoom Notes feature. You can just talk into Zoom. You can use transcripts, so you can run a meeting. You can run a Zoom clip. There are loads of ways that you can start up Zoom and get it to create a transcript of your conversation. And then you can use that conversation data to support whatever you're doing, whether you're doing an AI thing for marketing, whether you're doing a notes for a meeting, whether you want to put a webinar together. And that's what I often do. I'll do a brain dump into an AI tool, so it will then reconstitute your data. And then the trick is, and I'm just reading a comment from Robert, who's very verbose today. Good to see that. He does a simple thing with Gemini on Google Workspace. So he does a lot of work around that. So that's interesting. It comes up, it builds his action list with his daily messages. If you talk to an AI long enough, it will remember things. But what do? You give it a transcript. Now, once you have a transcript and you've proven the transcript works, now you must all promise to send me some money now, because I'm just about to give you something which is worth a few $1,000s. Even Mike's put his hand up. The trick is get the AI to do a markdown summary, because the markdown summary has two advantages over your previous transcript. Firstly, it's more organized, and therefore it's easier for the AI to make sense of. And secondly, you can read the summary and edit the summary if you think that you've either said things which it's taken the wrong angle on, or you just plainly disagree with how it summarized your expertise. Markdown files are more powerful, in my view, and I'm sure there'll be lots of AI people who will confirm this, because I feel really confident about this one. Markdown files are much more powerful than your original chat transcript, because your chat transcript will contain errors, omissions, duplicate facts, contradicting facts, and will not make total sense. And the AI, when it does a summary of all the facts, will clear up those things and make it obvious to you if there are discrepancies, which it is then misunderstanding or just ignoring, because it does sometimes, let's face it, because its pattern matching brain doesn't understand what you said. So the markdown file is also not only a concise version of what you said, it allows you to check the AI is making the understanding that you want it to. So you then take that and you give that back to it when you want to do a Facebook post, or get ideas for Facebook posts or LinkedIn or anything else you want to do, because you now have a concise version of what you put in originally, that you've also had the ability to check that what you put in originally is what's come out the other end. And you just get better data. It's as simple as that. And if you're planning a lot of webinars and meetings and presentations, let's face it, there are two types of presenters I meet in this world. There are, how do I describe them? You know that red circle that people stand on when they talk, the TEDx stage? I always think the world is full of TEDx speakers and everybody else. Because in the TEDx world, the idea is you have a signature speech, and you're probably going to give that signature speech within a few words of what it's been time after time after time. You're just going to live on that speech. And when I've been in Toastmasters groups, I quite often find there are a certain number of people who effectively spend weeks, months, even years delivering almost the same speech over and over again. Okay, they'll edit it slightly over time. They might enhance it over time, depending on feedback from people and the feedback from an audience. But they are basically a signature speech person. I always call them a TEDx speaker, because do you know that you have to deliver a TEDx speech word for word? It's one of the rules. One reason why I'll never be a TEDx speaker, because I've never delivered the same speech twice. So that's the other group of people. The other group of people are delivering lots of speeches, maybe a few speeches that are similar in scope most of the time. But a lot of us are giving lots of speeches in a year which are unique to that event or that need. Mike and I have to do them off the cuff on Zoom-related things on a regular basis. More off the cuff for Mike because he hasn't had a chance to see my notes. But what he knows, he knows. And that's why I don't have to prompt him, because I know he has a wealth of experience. And if I throw some things at him, I know he has great answers to give. But I can't afford to spend the whole day planning for that presentation. Otherwise, I'll never get anything else done. So I have to have a way of using AI to give me contextual answers to my presentations and webinars. And if you're a big corporate or you've done a lot of webinars and presentations, I am sure that if you took all your presentations and you put them into an AI tool of your choice and got it to summarize all of them and then give a summary of all the summaries, you could get some really, really high-class marketing material out of that content. Maybe even some clips. What do you think, Mike? Do you think that works? Or as Robert says, those that know how to read their slides, yes, slides can be reminders rather than the script. Yeah, exactly. I like slides too. Yeah. Slides or a little outline to keep you on message.
Yeah. And there's many different little tips, especially if you're presenting similar to what John is talking about. If you're doing a TEDx type scenario, is that your slides are your slides. If you're a presenter, don't read your slide to the present. Don't read your slide to the people that are in the audience, because that just means you don't know what you're talking about and your slides do. So the whole point of you talking, the slide is supposed to supplement any additional information that you're giving. And the Toastmaster judge beside me is going on purpose, because of the fact that, yes, your slides are your slides. It is good to reference that if there's key information in there to talk about, to make sure that people, when they are looking at your slide, focus on those specific things. But you're not reading the bullet point going, oh, thank you everyone for joining us. It's great that you came to our show today. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel because it gets us more content or viewers. Again, that easily could be on our slide.
Yes,
But again,
it could.
as an audience,
Please
yes, it could.
like and subscribe so we can get more
Right.
content and viewers. Oh,
Right.
okay. Yeah, and you can misread them as well, can't you?
Of course you can. That's right. And that's the other thing too, is that heaven forbid you misread your slide that you even have in front of everybody too. Then you really look foolish. Not only are you reading your slide, which means you don't know anything else but the slide. Now you can't even read the slide properly because the information on it, you don't even know what the words are saying. So that means the slide deck was given to you 5 minutes before you decided to present. And look at Mr.
Yep.
Toastmasters doing all the nodding here. Yeah, exactly. All bad things. And Robert, you're not wrong. If the presenter is a presenter and the slides are the slides and they supplement each other properly, that is a good presenter.
Sorry, I was waiting for ChatGPT to chime in. I thought it was gonna join in, but
I wasn't sure what you're doing there, John. Hold on. Is that a source? I'm checking. Nope. Didn't see him as a source.
no. Well, we have many people helping us. I mean, I really never get round to thanking firstly our random audience who turn up, and especially when a random audience turns up twice to the same event because we weren't here at the first time. Then that's great. But what I like about Zoom and AI is that they don't force us to use one particular AI. They are using a suite. I don't know what the collective noun is supposed to be, but they've got a whole mishmash. There we are. That's the term. They've got a whole mishmash of AI tools in the background, helping AI Companion to make its results. So that is nice for me because I don't have to worry about my LinkedIn feed and my Facebook feed and my Instagram feed where people are telling me that, drop that AI, this AI is better and that version's AI is better. Zoom just gets on and produces the AI that works for what Zoom is doing. And then it just works. And the reason that I'm using Ollama for my local processing is the same thing. So if I don't like the way one of the AIs is going and it's not giving me the right answers and I find there's a better AI, I can just reset the system. I've got all my data in my MD files. I've got all my content locally, and I can just plug in a new AI tool and carry on. And therefore, I can make a world where I'm AI agnostic, but I'm still using AI. And so my final thought for today is very simple. AI is a great tool for organizing, and I'm certainly going to be using it more. And the more organizing that I can set, hopefully the more time I will start winning back during all these mad webinars we're doing. And then we have the final trick. The reason why you need to keep coming back to Futures Lord Zoom Lives. Once you have things that work, you can use recordings and simulives. So you don't have to repeat the same speech twice, because the second time you repeat the speech, it's a recording. And no, this was all live, but I may just smuggle in the odd recording now and again, now in the future. So watch out. See if you can tell when it's me from the past, or even, I don't know, can we bring them out in webinars? Can we have another version of me in a webinar? I think we can, can't we? No, we can't. No, we can only have them in meetings. They're not in webinars yet. My caricatures of me don't seem to be in this system. So maybe I haven't produced one. But yes, once we get to a level of lots of webinars running at lots of different times, then we have to start thinking of people who will be seeing us for the first time, and we can have simulides and recordings for them. But of course, we do have one recording, don't we, Mike? It's our closing tune.
Mm-hmm. And before
So
we do
would you
that,
like
John,
to?
we should let them, yeah.
Yes.
before we
Would
do
you
that-
like to give your final speech?
Yeah, before we actually do that, John, we should talk about the current list of shows that we have, especially coming up this week.
Well, I recommend you register for Lord Zoom Live. There is a newsletter that you can subscribe to, but I don't know how I'm going to lay this page out next month. Gonna have to find, because I don't want to just overload the thing with boxes. But yeah, we're gonna have to find a way to advertise all these events in a way so that the regular ones that we run during the month all get their own special place. So yeah, we're going to have to look at how we organize that to make it better, and then I'll probably edit it on the end of this recording, as you can do in YouTube now. The wonderful thing it is. I've just checked. I can't see anything else that we haven't covered in the chat and the comments and my notes. So thank you very much for your time, Mike. Thanks for being here now. Thanks for being here earlier. And thanks for being here later. And we might well, I'm pretty sure actually, I'm going to terminate all these webinar sessions for April. I'm going to start a new set from May, and I'm going to nail them to 3 p.m. Eastern so that we don't get in this mess ever again.
That's a good plan, John.
Yeah, if we had if I got my other 3 or 4 different events all running as well, and then we'd had some clashing because of the one time zone, some clashing with the other time zone. Yeah, that would have been a disaster. Okay. I think I dodged a bullet there, really. A Zoom bullet. But thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe, but he can say it better than I can. Oops, he can say it better than I can.
Oops, he can say it better than I can. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, so that lets Zoom and YouTube know how much you love our content. And see everyone next week, right here, every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. John promises.
Eastern.
12 p.m. Pacific. And take care, everyone. Specifically specific. Yes, there we go. Say that 3 times. Have a good week, everyone. Take care.
Every week we open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine, your message taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. From big events to breakout rooms with flair, we've got the tools and we're ready to share. Guest experts drop in, bringing gold each time, with insights and tricks to help you climb. Can't make it live, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we glow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. And making life, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Now take the spotlight, the stage is yours. Bring your message through virtual doors. Each week we gather, and now you know you're not alone, so let it flow. Thank you for joining us, now go and shine. Share what you've learned, your voice, your time. With Lord Zoom Live, your power will grow. It's time to build your own show.